Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have heard No Wonder I by Lake yet, but yo,
that's my Jawn!
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. You're tasting things that don't need to be measured. What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I'm your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. Jawn Totoro, a.k.a. Nate 3.0. Back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I am joined by writer, director, and musician Geremy Jasper to talk about his latest film, Odessa, and so much more. Ever since I first saw the trailer for this film, I knew Geremy was someone I wanted to get on the show and pick his brain, and I am so happy to bring you this conversation today. And that is coming up in a minute here. But first, I gotta touch base with my homies. What is up, pals? I hope all is well on your end. It has been busy over here, but with this episode I am bringing you today, that busy period is winding on down. This was a packed stretch the past month or so doing a weekly release format, and guys, I am pooped. So I think after this episode here, I might take a tiny break unless, of course, something pops up that I have to jump on. And the best way for you to stay on top of all of that, all of the breaks and restarts, pauses, releases, all of that, the best way is to follow us on the socials at Yo, That's My Jawn. If there is a social, we're on it. So jump on there and check out and subscribe to the Substack, yothat'smyjawn.substack.com. I've been sharing all of the podcast stuff over there, and it's been a nice little hub for all of the projects that Lonely Monk Productions has a hand in. Lonely Monk Productions, of course, is me. If you find yourself right now asking, who the fuck is Lonely Monk Productions? All right, so this chat today is a good one. From the first moment I saw the trailer for Geremy's film Odessa, I recognized something I had been longing for quite some time now. An original fantasy epic, something that called back the films I grew up with. And as I learned during this chat, the films that inspired Geremy as well. Films like Legend and Labyrinth and Rock and Roll, and just these weird original ideas that were full of imagination and wonder. And I know you've heard me bang on about this for what seems like the entirety of this podcast, but we're in this cultural arrested development at the moment that is full of existing IP and reboots and rehashes. And, whenever you just keep Xeroxing the same printout over and over again, it starts to lose clarity. This goes for most of my passions, be it TV or film or art, with so much out there and with what little time we have to even attempt to spend with a television show or an album, it's very easy to find yourself going with something safe that checks all of the boxes of what we love. Oh, I know that thing, so I'm going into it with a level of understanding what I expect from it. But the things that continue to wow and amaze us and the things that continue to move culture are always something new, something different, something original. And we used to take big chances on things. So when something like Odessa comes around, I get excited because it reminds me of all those wildly imaginative swings we used to take. In film, after the success of the original Star Wars, studios gave so many visionaries an opportunity to test their imaginations and see if they could create something similar. In music, once Nirvana hit, labels started backing all kinds of great weird music in an attempt to find the next hidden gem. We need more like that. We need something like that. We need these wild swings, the things so inherently different and fresh that can kick down the door of culture and usher in all of its metaphorical weirdo cousins. And so when we get them, we need to show up and we need to support them. And we need to support the creators. Creators like... My guest today is a writer, director, and musician whose latest film, Odessa, starring Sadie Sink, tells the story of a young rambler who follows her destiny in a dreamlike post-apocalyptic wasteland, all while finding love and loss and culminating in a showdown between good and evil. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Geremy Jasper. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined today by the great Geremy Jasper. Geremy, thank you for joining me on Yo, That's My Jawn.
Very good to be with you, Nate. Thanks for having me.
I am super excited for this conversation. I'm just going to tell you a very quick path on my life with Odessa. And
Ah,
that is from the second I saw the trailer, I went, oh, fuck, this is for me. That was like immediately I was just like, oh, this is me. This is a me thing. And then I heard the soundtrack and I was like, okay, now not only is this for me, I have to talk to this guy because when I got a copy of the soundtrack, it had the breakdown of your inspiration and stuff behind each song, and it
yeah.
just made me more and more of a fan, and more did I anticipate what this movie could be, and it did not disappoint. So I am so stoked we get to chat.
Awesome, man. That means a lot. I'm so glad you went to the film in the right way. I like
That's
that.
that's the
I like
path you
the
like.
album. Yeah, then into the film itself. Yeah. It needs
Yeah.
kind of you need to be the stage needs to be set, to dig into to the film because it's really different than most cinematic experiences, I think. Yeah.
For sure. And like as a matter of fact, like it's one of those things where like I don't know your grander thoughts, and we'll get
Yeah.
to it eventually or whatnot, but I just wanted more. Like I was literally starving for more. Like it was over and I was
Cool.
like, no,
Oh,
series,
sure.
sequel. I don't know
Sure.
what we
Yeah,
have to do.
exactly. To do the graphic novels and the theme park rides and the whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Odette cinematic universe. Yeah.
I mean, like my brain was doing prequels. Like
Yeah.
like
I
you
like
got
that.
the
Yeah.
universe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I always like to start these conversations back in the Wayback Machine. Tell me a little bit about yourself growing up.
I'm from New Jersey. I'm from kind of the classic suburbs of New Jersey, a very kind of Springsteen-esque town. And I grew up falling in love with music and and cartooning, and then found films. And so was just like a small town kid that was always looking to kind of get away, to get out, to kind of experience the world. I had this like kind of ache inside to go on, live a life of romance and adventure. Uh, but the foundational elements were watching, MTV Raps and 120 Minutes and shoplifting albums from the Sam Goody and just doing whatever I could to get music at that time, which was like late 80s, early 90s kind of time period. And so that sort of set me off to then go try to live an artistic life. And then I was in bands for many years and played music, and then toured and did all that, and I lived on the road in a certain way. And then kind of later in life, well, when I turned 30, it was when I decided I wanted to be a director. And then I spent a whole bunch of time learning how to write and write screenplays and direct music videos and commercials and all that stuff. And that's what brings us here. Yeah.
Heck yeah. You're speaking to a former third key of Sam Goody, so I feel like you just told on yourself, but no.
Yeah.
You said music was kind of the entry there. Like what was your kind of onboarding? Were your folks into music or?
Yeah, my mom is a singer, or she was a singer, and she was going to be a Broadway actress at one point. So she's more into musicals and the theater, and so I kind of grew up listening to a lot of that stuff that I think is just sort of ingrained in me. And then my dad is much more into the Bob Dylans and Bruce Springsteens and John Cougar Mellencamp's of the world. So he likes like Americana, working man's music, and my mom likes the more sort of flowery Broadway type stuff. I mean, my mom, someone once asked her, like, if you could be reincarnated as any human being, who would it be? And she said, Liza Minnelli. So got Bob Dylan on one side and Liza Minnelli on the other. And I feel like Odessa is actually somewhere right in the middle of those two things. Yeah.
I was literally just gonna say, I was like, you're describing your movie. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's
Liza Dillon.
tremendous.
Liza Dillon. Yeah.
When did you start playing? Like when did early or?
Yeah, around, I mean, I started writing songs when I was about, was that when I was in fifth grade? So was that like 10 years old? I remember starting to write and writing. Hip hop was my first love. That's why I made my first film. Patty Cakes was about like I had been writing rhymes and making pause tapes, and that when I discovered Run DMC and the Beastie Boys when I was about 10, that was like a life-changing thing. Because before that, music wasn't that important to me. I don't, except for Michael Jackson. Yeah, Michael Jackson was like being struck by lightning. That happened when I was in second grade, I think. And I dressed like every other kid in the world. I dressed like him. I had the glove. I danced like him. I performed, I did a terrible performance of Beat It at the talent show. And so that was like, but that was more like a pop phenomenon. That was, I didn't absorb Michael Jackson like music. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
almost like it was something else. It wasn't, it was a different kind of phenomenon that kind of transcended music. It didn't feel like human beings made it. And he
right.
felt like alien and it just uh, he was a universe unto himself. So it didn't feel like, oh yeah, that like you didn't hear Michael Jackson be like, oh, I want to make albums. You were just like, I want to be like whoever this person is. It was more of a personality. But then when I found hip hop a little bit later in grade school, and then that kind of morphed into a love of hard rock, and then alternative and grunge, and it just like I grew up at the right time where like new music and new genres were happening all the time. And I got to kind of play in bands that were doing that. I played in a Nirvana cover band and I played in like a funk band. And like, we were trying on all different kinds of styles, which was really great. Like it was just an exciting time in the 90s to play around. And there was so much good music coming out. And then after that period, then I got really, really into American folk music and like learn how to finger pick and write songs like, the early Dylan stuff and the Carter family and Mississippi John Hurt and all these great, great stuff. So like my musical tastes are very diverse. And that's why I like to kind of have a lot of different kinds of music for the films, especially Odessa. Like it was a container for me to throw all my passions into. Yeah.
You and I, at some point when this conversation is over, are going to have to compare 23andMe because you literally just described my entire life as well.
That's a lot.
Same thing. Michael Jackson, Run DMC. I remember
Yeah.
the very first time I ever heard Run DMC. It was like a fucking revelation. It blew me
Yes.
away, and it was
Yeah.
like kind of similar to what you were experiencing. It was the first time it felt like mine. Like,
Mhm.
like all of the pop music and all the rock music that I grew up with always felt like something I shared with my folks. But like Run DMC and the Beastie Boys, I was like, this is me. Like, this
Yeah,
is, I see myself in this. Um,
absolutely.
it's wild. And then all the way through to like the Americana turn too. Like, I mean, like it must be something in the water. We're
I
both
don't
East
know.
Coast guys, but like,
Yeah. I think there must be just something that relates all of those things. I think it was Chuck D who said, hip hop is like the folk music of the late 20th century, and like there is just like a line between those forms of music, which is kind of wild to me. But it does seem to be like people that are really into Americana and folk and like and roots music also have like a deep love of hip hop. I think maybe it has to do with storytelling, and there's something kind of rudimentary musically about it, but it also has incredible depth. I don't know. I don't know. But
it
yeah.
to me they're both the some of the purest forms of music because they're primarily done by one person, like
Right,
an
right,
MC is just telling a story. A
right.
folk musician is essentially doing the same thing, but with a guitar or a banjo or something
Totally.
like that.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're so right. Yeah. And it's not about like a band or a big group of people. It's like a very direct relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, one might say they're ramblers.
That's
See what I did
right.
there?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
Look, I get a little corny sometimes. You mentioned the bands, the Fever.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
was kind of the swing, right? That was the what was the impetus of putting that together, like kind of finding that sound.
We that started as just a recording project that I did with this guy named Chris Sanchez, and it was just a two-piece studio thing. And then we were in New York in the early 2000s, and right after 9/11, there was just like this explosion of bands and places to play. And it was always my dream to do that. It was just bands were very out of out of fashion at that time. And then we put this group together with Chris, myself, his brother, and some guys that I grew up that I had been playing in bands since I was 15 in New Jersey. We got together and we would, we played in New York and Brooklyn and all that, and then toured around. It was a pretty insane kind of magical time. Uh, yeah, I think it was like the last time that you could kind of scratch out a living as a musician, being in a band. I don't know how you do it now. It's like impossible.
You don't.
Yeah.
Right, like that's why, like, I don't know if you've seen, there was this Billboard article about how long it's been since there's been a band in like the top 100 or something like that.
No
It's almost,
way.
yeah.
How long has it been?
It's
Like,
a very long time. I can't forget what the last one was, but like we used to have groups. We used to have like Boys to Men, even like, and the idea of groups. And I feel like this is a little tinfoil hat and string and stuff like that. I feel like the pandemic and bedroom production kind of lends itself to that, because you don't need a friend to do that anymore. You're all doing it on a doll in your
true.
bedroom.
It's true. Yeah, it becomes harder and harder also to get people together to play four or five people together. They tend to be, two-headed monster groups, or like two or three people. I mean, and that's what I do now with Jason, my music partner. It's just the two of us, and you realize, oh, you've got a studio, you've got people who can play multiple instruments. Like, why deal with the drama and soap opera of these other personalities? It's like keep it lean and mean. But I miss that, man. I miss bands. There's a certain magic that you can't replicate. No matter how many overdubs you do, there's a feel and a power and a individuality that like a band working together with that kind of chemistry, you just you can't nail it down in the studio like with just a couple people. You just can't.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's been my one critique of, I don't even know if he was probably in the Hall of Fame, but maybe future Hall of Famer. It's my one critique of Lenny Kravitz. I'm like, if you put Lenny Kravitz in a band, that band's going to be the best band in the fucking world.
Right.
And when they
Right.
tour and they play, they're
Yeah.
one of the tightest, best bands in the world. But he wants to work on all of those projects by himself. And you
Right.
can hear it. It's,
Like a little kid. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. It's a
Yeah.
weird thing. But I
I
get it.
I hear that.
It's not.
Uh,
It's nice to not have someone tell you no. I get it. Like,
he's a pretty good drummer, man. I
yeah.
like Lenny Kravitz's drumming. Like he plays drums on that song he does with Slash, and like there's some good feel. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll start a band with him if he wants. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what the problem is. He just didn't have anybody offer
Hasn't
it. I'll
invited
be
me
the
to
guy.
it. Yeah.
Um, so you make the pivot to movies. I got to take a check. I got to check out Outlaw, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you can start to see the fingerprints, man. You can start to see what the birth of some of the kind of mythic nature
Yeah.
of that you can find in Odessa. Have you always been drawn to kind of these kind of epic kind of tales?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it came later, but I think there was kind of starting with the early Dylan records, and then thinking about the sort of surreal landscapes that he creates in his music with really weird characters and fragments, and the songs always feel of a strange place but very collaged together. That's really interesting to me, and then I was able to when I found going kind of through Dylan, then getting into Tom Waits, and then Tom Waits kind of led me to Fellini And getting into the Fellini movies, there's a certain overlap between that stuff and both Waits and Bob Dylan that I feel really at home. And the narratives are kind of fragmented. There's a sense of the grotesque. There's a sense of the romantic. There's like there's strange worlds that you're going into, but they're still emotional. They're sort of operatic, weird morality tales. So that that kind of led me. But I'm rambling, so I forgot the question. What was the question again?
Oh, just the the kind of early fingerprints and outlaws that.
Yeah. So like, Outlaws is about a Mexican circus that oddly enough, David Beckham of all people is like a motorcycle stuntman that comes upon this film shoot at a Mexican circus. And Harvey Keitel is the director of this film. He's kind of a Sam Peckinpah-esque tyrant. And that was some pretty heady stuff for me because that was the first time I had come from low budget music videos and commercials. Never really worked with actors before. And on my first real short film, which was Outlaws, the first actor that I'm going to direct is Harvey Keitel. And that was some intimidating, heavy shit. I could not believe it because Harvey Keitel is probably in more of my favorite films than any other actor. Maybe Nicolas Cage, but like he's just in so many iconic, amazing performances. And then to be there with him in the middle of Mexico and having to direct him, I was like, what is my life? But he's a real he's a real amazing character. Uh, but so yeah, to be in the middle of like we had some sideshow performers. We had yeah, it was just a wild experience. But yeah, I like epics. I like that film was like a love letter to um, spaghetti westerns and circus films, two of my kind of favorite genres.
Yeah,
Yeah, something epic and widescreen and large and strange that you can go, a strange little world that you can get lost into.
abs-
Definitely kept going with Odessa.
Yeah. So, what was into Odessa? What was kind of the influence there? Can I give you two
Yeah,
things immediately
yeah,
that called to mind? The
yeah.
very first time it started, or when the trailer started, all I kept thinking about was a phrase, a rock and roll fable,
Yeah.
taken from Streets of
Streets of
Fire.
Fire. Streets of
Yes.
Fire. Yeah.
And then the other thing that hit me was like, do you remember Rock and Roll?
Yeah, the animated movie with Lou Reed and
Yeah.
Iggy. Yeah, 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 totally.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like it was like a kind of to me mentally it was like a marriage between like
I like
Streets of
that.
Fire and rock and roll.
And a
But
lot.
what were you kind of influenced by?
It was influenced it's one of the initial ideas. Well, first it was like the myth of Orpheus is kind of what set it off. I kind of lost track with that, but that was one of the initial impulses. Like a female Woody Guthrie that was like the ultimate, almost supernatural singer in some dark mythological world. So there were elements of that. There were elements of the Dust Bowl and the kind of going back through American roots music. And then there was that combined with my love of like 80s dark fantasy and stuff like Labyrinth and Legend and just like weird, surreal sort of fairy tale films. I wanted to just mash those things up. Um, and yeah, I like Streets of Fire a lot. It's interesting that yeah, I initially had on early versions of the script like a musical fable, and then I remember came back to Streets of Fire later. I was like, oh yeah, Walter Hill already did this. Like he's got it going. Um, but yeah, films in that those kind of strange genre mashups from the mid to late 80s that I grew up on. I just wanted to capture some of that essence, but also mix it with concept records or rock operas like that Pink Floyd was making and David Bowie and even some of the strange stage musicals that Tom Waits was doing. So those were all influential. So it was like some high art, some low art, some all this kind of stuff spackled together.
Yeah, one of the other things that took me is you got to use the opening fanfare for 20th Century Fox, and it
Yes.
immediately clicked. It immediately hit the Rocky Horror
Oh
tinge in
yeah.
my head.
Cool.
You know
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it
yeah.
started.
Yeah.
But I guess my greater point to this is how do you make something so original in today's climate? Because it's seemingly impossible, but not only did you have the concept and pitch it, but you did it, and now we're about to release it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I had a straightforward answer because it took years and years and years of a certain sense of, I think, inherent craziness to see it through because there were many, many times where the film fell apart or we lost funding or we lost an actor or you know some got cold feet, and so it took a long time to see it through, and it was a very, very ambitious movie for limited means. So everybody had to wear multiple hats and everybody had to like bleed for the movie on another level. And the thing I'm most proud of is just that it exists because there were most of the time making it. I don't know who said this quote, but it was something like, you know, movies don't want to be made. Nobody really wants a film to be made, and it just takes a small group of people to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to get it made. And it always seems like a miracle when it is. But I'm just grateful that there were enough lunatics that joined this pirate ship to make the thing because it was hard to make, it was hard to write, but it was also a joy. Yeah.
You also I'm not going to say lucked out because I'm sure you probably had a few people in mind, but if landing someone like Sadie Sink
I would
to
say lucked out. Yeah, that's lucked out.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to, I didn't want to throw, but I mean, like, because it's a character that this film live or dies on. Like, if that's miscast or if there's a kind of unbelievability of kind of drawing your attention to someone, it all falls apart. Was she the first person to come on board, or?
And we had other actors. There were many different incarnations of Odessa that had existed in almost like parallel universes, and they would kind of feel and seem like they were going to happen, and then they fell apart. And so there were a couple different waves because it took 6 years to really get going. And it was at a kind of a real low point. I thought, oh geez, this film's never gonna get made because of what you just said. Like it takes such a special human being to have all of these skills and to carry a film. And they have to be it's a young woman that's going to do this. So not only do you have to be an incredible actor who has a certain kind of physicality and presence and charisma, but you also have to sing and learn how to play guitar. And like, it's a lot to ask. And I just thought, oh my God, that person's not out there. And luckily, I got introduced to Sadie. We had a really nice conversation, but I was like, she's on Stranger Things. It's never going to happen. I'm not even going to think about it. And then I just got really lucky. She got her hands on the screenplay without me knowing it. She loved it and really related to the character. And she got her hands on one of the songs and she recorded a little demo of her playing. And someone sent it to me, just like just her on her phone playing and singing one of the songs. And it rocked me. It was the first time in the 5 years I'd been developing the film that I saw the movie. I saw the character. Like there she was. She existed in the world. And so there was a whole thing to get the timing right for her to be able to shoot the show and for her to come make Odessa. And then we moved to Croatia and we shot it there. But getting her as the center of the film was the big breakthrough. And the fact that she was the one pursuing it. And then just carries the film on her back. She's a force. So yeah,
Yeah,
very,
it's
very.
a, it's a- it's a heavy lift for especially for a young actress or whatnot,
She
and
was 21 when we shot it. I mean, it's just like a massive undertaking for a 21-year-old to do all the things that she does. So yeah, she's a miracle.
And then Kelvin's another one who just just owns every frame that he's in. I have a very weird question about
Yes.
the look of both characters, and
Yes.
that is. At any point in the history of this project, did you envision Brandy Carlisle and Orville Peck
Oh,
in these roles?
I wish. I think they're a little long in the tooth for it, but
Yeah,
they
yeah,
definitely their influence is in there. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's in the DNA of these characters for sure. Yeah.
One, I mentioned the soundtrack breakdown, and one of the things that I appreciated was kind of sharing your reference points. Mentioning Iggy and Prince and stuff like that. But so musically, the influences are there. What was the process of crafting the songs to kind of fit what you were looking for?
It was a long process. There were some tunes that I'd written 15 years ago that had, and that I was holding on to for a long time to have the right moment or the right character or the right setting to use them. And then there were others that I think it was kind of 50-50. Some were songs that I had ready, just needing to find where they were going to go, and others we were writing during the screenwriting and even up into pre-production. Like she has this last song that she sings in the film, and it kind of went down to the 11th hour where it says in the script she's going to sing this song and it's going to be the best song in the movie and it's going to be done on one string and it's going to bring the house down. And we were 2 weeks away from leaving uh, for Croatia and needed to record, and I like left it to the last minute to write that final song. And I think because it happened right at the end of the line, it has a certain kind of energy which you need. So there's old stuff, there's new stuff. You go down one road, you record something, it sucks, but you kind of are able to salvage just a little line here or a little melody there, and then you scrap it and you kind of weld it to this thing. So that's sort of my style. I collect a whole bunch of stuff and then you try to see what connects to something else. Uh,
Uh, in a world with infinite money that doesn't exist, I understand.
yeah.
Is there a longer version of this idea? Like, did you get to kind of visualize everything you wanted to achieve with this, or
Oh,
is there
there's way
anything that kind of
more.
got?
Oh, there's way more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because it started out, I think the first draft of the script was like 200 pages. It had all these other characters, it had all these other worlds you can go into. Yeah. Then there was a minute where I was like, maybe it's a TV series because you can kind of break off and really dig in deeper to this unique world. But yeah, there's more and more stuff. Spin off.
I want
Spin
it
off.
all. I want
Yeah.
it all.
The audience won.
Hey, it's fine. Do it for me.
Yeah, I'm doing it for you, man.
So what this is will be out in the past, but it came out on the 20th. It's available on Hulu streaming.
Yeah.
Have you been able to screen it? Like, what's the reaction kind of been like?
Yeah, we premiered at South by Southwest a couple of weeks ago. That went really well. It was a music crowd, and an adventurous audience, who are down for risks and taking chances and doing something strange. And so it was a really warm reception there. And then we did had a really incredible premiere in New York, which was a party, which really really needed to happen. And then there'll be a couple little screenings here and there, but then yeah, then it's on Hulu.
It's incredible. Like I'm so glad something like this exists. Like I said, like look, I like a Marvel movie like the next guy and stuff like that. But there is a style and an originality of film that I remember from my childhood, that just does not exist anymore. And so, like when this like came, and presented itself to me, I just, like I said, it felt like a gift. And now knowing that we had the same exact musical path, now it all makes sense.
Exactly. So you were in Philly and I was in Jersey. Is that yeah?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder,
We're,
did you ever play in Philly at all? I wonder if we gigged.
yeah, we played in Philly. We played like a like an underground church. I remember. Was
For
there like
First Unitarian?
yes, First Unitarian.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. Good venue. Does it have
Yeah,
like drop ceilings if I remember correctly?
it
Yes.
does. I just saw Illuminati hotties there.
No way. It still
Yeah.
goes. The place is still going. Yeah,
Still.
it's a great spot. And then we played some. Where's some of the other? We played there a handful of times. Uh, yeah, always love Philly.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Great.
At this time, you want to go through my jauntlet? This is my
Let's
questions
do
that I
it.
ask every
Let's do it.
guest that
Let's
come
do it.
through here. Starts with the one hit wonders, one hit wonder in name only. You're just picking a favorite. Billy Joel or Elton John?
Elton John,
I dig it. Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Debbie Harry,
Very nice, very nice. Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
Aretha,
Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana. I'm picking the first ones out of all these.
I noticed this. I noticed this. It's a trend. Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Janis Joplin,
Uh
yeah.
huh. Uh huh. Beatles or the Stones?
Beatles.
Saw that one a long time coming.
Yeah, yeah.
And the last of the one hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
This is where I go to the segment. Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Look,
I'm a Zeppelin guy.
that
Yeah.
makes sense. How about Jim Steinman? Where are we at on Jim Steinman?
He wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart, so he's kind of a jammer.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Meatloaf guy,
Okay.
but uh, I think when you dig into he's undeniable. He's
Yeah.
undeniable, and he's like a true eccentric. You hear stories about him in the studio, and they're pretty
Pretty
remarkable.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that does it for me is and it goes back to Streets of Fire again, is the song Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young from that soundtrack.
Oh
Is
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's an
right.
all-timer to me. Like,
That's right. I forgot he was involved in that because they were trying to get a Bruce song. I remember
yes,
that's why it's called Streets of Fire because
that's
of
right.
the Bruce song. But the boss didn't come through, so they had to
That's
go to Jim. If you get the boss, go to Jim.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. It's funny because when there's a story that when Jim saw Springsteen performing somewhere at a coffee house in New York or something like that, he immediately called Meatloaf and was like, "This fucking guy's doing what we want to do." Like,
Oh wow, wow.
yeah, it's great. So it was always there.
Yeah.
The second half of this, the top 10 countdown. In this, we use Jawn to be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be music. It can be anything you want. The first one is, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with as a kid?
Star Wars.
Yeah. See, dude, 23andMe, we're checking it. So much so, I love to tell people this. My wife and I got married. I was dressed as Han Solo and she was dressed as Princess
No
Leia.
way. Wow, that is next level.
Took it,
Damn,
took it up.
damn. That's incredible.
Number two, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
I'm really into this Lil Yachty record. Let's start here. It's a couple years old, but I came to it late. But it's like a prog R&B record that yeah, two flavors you didn't know were going to go well together, but it's like got incredible synthesizer work, and it kind of feels like a lost Pink Floyd album with Lil Yachty singing on top. So yes,
Perfect.
that's my latest. Yeah.
Perfect description too. Number three, what was your first concert, first live show you ever saw?
First live show was Aerosmith at Giant Stadium on the Pump tour.
Yes.
I was like seventh grade. Yeah.
Opener.
The Black Crows.
Oh, see, that's a killer show.
Yeah, the record came out, I think, 3 days before that tour. So yes. So that's some real classic rock fuckery going on right there. Yeah.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Number four, what was your last concert, last live show you ever saw?
I took my 11-year-old to see Slipknot, which he's a very big fan of, and I was unfamiliar with, but it was an awesome show. I've
That's killer. Are they still wearing the masks?
always
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. Still masked up, but
Yeah,
like those guys are in their 50s and they sounded amazing. Yeah, and
it's
he
awesome.
loved it. he loved it, so that was worth it.
Number five, what was your favorite show?
The one that sticks with me the most is I saw the Beastie Boys on the Check Your Head tour at Roseland, and that was like euphoric. And then I saw David Bowie on his last tour, which was a long time ago, but that was a pretty extraordinary show too. Yeah, so those are the two that stick out.
Oh, it's fantastic. Number six, who have you never seen live that you wish you could have? They can be living or dead.
Tom Waits.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Those he doesn't tour at all, but when he did, they sell out in like 7 minutes. Yeah.
Did you ever see the I want to say it's like maybe Austin City Limits. It's a PBS special
Yeah.
that he did in the 70s that gets very theatrical at times. I
That-
used to watch that every Christmas.
it's got the gas pump in it and like
Yes.
it's that one, right? Yeah. I know it. It's amazing. It's amazing. People just
Yeah.
don't do that kind of shit anymore. I just
No.
like it's like a one act play theater performance. And I wish music was that theatrical.
Yeah, it's weird to me. It seems like a lane that like somebody like is ample for someone to take up, and I've been waiting for it, and it won't come. Maybe I have to be the guy.
Yeah, maybe it's time for you to do it.
Yeah, I'll get back on it. I'll
Pump
get
some
back on
gas on stage.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Number seven, name an unappreciated, John. Something you wish people pay more attention to.
There's a short film named Toby Dammit by Fellini that's really amazing, and not enough people know about it.
What period? What?
It's I think it's 1969.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's very it's like a short sort of psychedelic horror movie starring Terrence Stamp, famous for playing Zod in the I think Superman 2. And it's so bizarre and beautiful and yeah, I highly recommend Toby Dammit.
It's on the list. We're doing it tonight. Uh, the number eight. What's your favorite album?
Favorite album would probably be the White Album by the Beatles. That's
Yeah,
the one.
you get a little bit of everything with that one, don't you?
Exactly, exactly. And I've heard it thousands of times, and I always discover some little nuance that I didn't pick up the time before. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's the greatest.
it's incredible. Number nine. Name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they release.
Tom Waits, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, a die-hard freak for him. And he doesn't release very much, and so you just try to get your hands on anything that he does. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I always find really interesting is listening to like that first album before the voice was really there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really interesting.
Therapy. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, he's got a great voice, but you have no idea where it's going.
yeah.
Uh,
Um,
that
here,
breath, it's amazing. Yeah.
here's a very strange question for you. In that, what were did you ever listen to that Scarlett Johansson Tom Waits cover album?
I love that record.
Right?
I ride for that record. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, she took so much shit for that album when it came out. People were kind of cruel, and it's the guy from TV on the Radio who produced it, and some of the arrangements are incredible. They're awesome, and like I love the style of her vocal, and I love the interpretations of the songs. I listened to that record quite a lot. David Bowie's on that record. He sings
Yes.
up on one of the songs, so can't be so bad. Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
It was either last record store day or the upcoming record store day. They just pressed a vinyl of it.
Oh, really? Oh, I
Yes.
gotta get my hands on that.
Yeah. Ditto.
That's good. That's an underrated gem. That's an underrated Jawn right there.
There it is. There it is. Stay on brand.
Yeah.
The 10th and final question of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Could be anything you want it to be.
That is a really tough question. Favorite Jawn of all. I'll just go because I just kind of go back to the well all the time with it, but I'll go with the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the Wizard of Oz, Star Wars takes from the Wizard of Oz. There's a great documentary that came out last year. I think it's called Lynch Oz, which is about how much David Lynch was influenced by the Wizard of Oz, and it's fascinating. It's just this kind of American fairy tale that is so surreal and dark. And even going back to the actual books, they're really violent and these strange fever dreams. And I don't know, there's something very beautiful about it. The music's beautiful. It's inherently surreal. It's a kind of American surrealism. It's at the base there. So yeah, I'll go with The Wizard of Oz,
I,
ultimate
lo-
genre.
I love it. We just rewatched it before Wicked came out, and I still haven't seen Wicked. Uh, but the one thing that stood out to me this time watching it was how much Marvel in the beginning, when Dorothy meets him, grifts Dorothy to go home.
Yeah,
Which is such an interesting character trait, especially for someone who, later on becomes kind of, conniving or whatnot. But in that first instance, when you first meet him, he uses that power of trickery to try to get her to stop running away. And
yeah, yeah.
it's a
You're right.
weird, compassionate moment that like really stood out to me this time.
Yeah, yeah. That actor's pretty tremendous. I forget what his name is. I should know it, but yeah, he plays that. Yeah, Marvel with a lot of sensitivity. Uh, yeah, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. So Odessa is will be now when people hear this out on Hulu, available to stream. The soundtrack is out. I implore everyone. As a matter of fact, we talked about it. Follow my path. Go watch the trailer, then listen to the soundtrack, and then go watch the film because, like, man, it just builds such a brilliant universe, and I am just so excited that something like this exists. I really am.
Thank you, man. That means a hell of a lot. I
What's
appreciate it.
what's next? Are you jumping right back into something? Or
Yeah,
are you
I'm
taking
jumping
some?
back in. I can't do it like I did this last time where I spent, 7 years between projects. So I've been writing the next film. It's going to be smaller and darker, and yeah, it's going to be in the psychological horror genre. But I'm
Any
really
music or
there'll be a musical component, but it's not nowhere as musical as this, and nowhere as musical as Patty Cake. It's just a little dash of music.
just a taste? I like it.
Yeah, it's a taste. Exactly.
Jeremy, do you do socials? If anybody wants to track you down, what's no?
Don't.
You're smart.
But yeah, yeah.
It's very smart. Well, the film is out on Hulu. The soundtrack is streaming wherever you get your streaming from. Jeremy, thank you so much for having this conversation with
This
me
was an
today.
absolute blast. Really, really enjoyed it.
My thanks again to Jeremy for joining me on the show today. Odessa, starring Sadie Sink, is out now, streaming on Hulu, and the soundtrack is available on all streaming services as well as available to pre-order on vinyl. Links to all of those are, of course, as always, in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo That's My Jawn podcast wherever you get your podcast from. And gang, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for the link tree with links to articles, merchandise, all of the previous episodes of this podcast, guest appearances on other podcasts, and, say it with me, more. And while you are there, please be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack at Yo That's My Jawn, and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out and touch some Jawn. On a much more somber note, I would like to send my condolences out to our former guest, Nancy Burrill, whose husband Al of the legendary hardcore band SSD Control passed away this weekend. My heart goes out to Al's family and friends, and most importantly to Nancy. Nancy, you're in our thoughts, and if you need anything, please feel free. You always got a home here. Anyway, everyone, blue skies. Until next time. Yo That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production, written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by me, under the moniker Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Maggie Poulos, Dan Drago, Natalie Runkle, and the beautifully vibrant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com or hit us up on the socials at Yo That's My Jawn. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Tilt your head back and shout to the world, Yo, that's my Jawn.